Okay. All righty. Let's see if we can get everybody. I want to say the test is on Wednesday. So we're going over the review page today. I'm going to pull it up and share with you in just a second where to find the review sheet. All right, there you go. So now you've been trying to get in for a while now. Well, welcome, welcome. I am trying to get my page to share. We are so that I can show you where to find the review sheet. We're sharing now. All righty. Um, Even though the review sheet kind of just goes over macromolecules, I am going to throw in some basics about what makes a living thing a living thing. And by that, I mean, and I don't want to get too much because we are still missing like half the class. All right, this part over here. So include this in your review. Like I said, I will come back and talk about that in a minute. So we got Miss Grin, and we've got the organization, what makes something a living thing, and in addition to our macromolecules. So we want to make sure that we mm, all right, Ms. Grin. All right. I'm not, don't think anybody joined new to the class. Like I said, right now I'm still missing like a third of the class. All right, there you go. All right. Okay, so again, we are going to test on Wednesday. I do want to make sure that we include all the characteristics of living things. All living things are not considered to be a living thing unless they can move on their own. And even plants move on their own. They respond to sunlight, they turn, they grow upward towards the sun. The roots grow down towards gravity. So this is their response. If you move the light source, the plant will shift. I know with all the plants that I keep in the house, they kind of grow towards the window. And then I've got to, if I don't want them all to be bent in one way, I've got to turn it around, and eventually it'll straighten up and then start growing towards the window again. So the plants do move. Both plants and animals carry out respiration. We don't have photosynthesis in this because only plants can photosynthesize, but both plants and animals carry out respiration. What plants do is they create their own food source. And once they create the food source, then they're able to use oxygen to carry out respiration. So both plants and animals do respiration. Sensitivity is the ability to respond to the environment. Okay, if something is hot, you move it. If something is cold, we shiver. And good afternoon. All right, we are just going over review questions for the test on Wednesday. We are finished with the unit, and we actually are finished with 2 units, but um, what I want to cover as far as the first part is concerned is just basically this, knowing the characteristics of living things. Growth. Living things can grow. For example, a rock, we can move a rock, but it can't move by itself. Rock will not grow. Rock is not sensitive to hot or cold. It doesn't carry on respiration. So like when we go through these things with non-living things, for some of them we can say, yeah, we could do that, but they have to be able to do all of them. Okay, otherwise they get eliminated from the living things list. They must reproduce more of their own kind. Okay, dropping the rock and breaking it into little pieces does not constitute reproduction, because once you break it into little pieces, it's not going to grow back. Excretion, things take in nutrients, they have to get rid of waste. And then, so these two kind of go together. So all living things must take in nutrition some kind of way. With plants, they make their own food, so they make the nutrition, but then they consume the food that they make. And we'll talk about that later when we actually get into photosynthesis and respiration. So again, know this little Ms. Grin for the test. Good afternoon. If you just joined us, we're reviewing for the test on Wednesday. All right. Uh, uh, then two other things that you have as far as a study guide is concerned. So have Ms. Grin have your macromolecule chart downloaded. So the test is mostly on the macromolecules. So have that downloaded. All right. And we're still missing quite a few people. All right, so this kind of summarizes that whole unit as far as all the important things you need to know. So we have, all right, when I stop, I'm usually trying to let somebody in. We have on our chart 5 molecules. The first 4 are considered to be the macromolecules, the protein, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids. We added water because water is important to all of these structures. We can't do any of these things without the water. Water dehydration synthesis is how we go from a monomer to a polymer. In most cases, we are removing a water molecule in order to link these things together in long chains. There we go. Alrighty, we're getting there. I think we're just missing a handful of people. Okay. Yes. And please do let me know if you're on a different device, because what's going to happen is when I look at GoGuardian, it's going to say other device. Remember to be on camera. So if you're at least on camera, I know you're here. I do attendance by looking in both places, but I mostly start at GoGuardian. Okay. All right. So thank you, Chase, for letting me know that so I can share that with everybody. All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Um, we are going over review sheets for the test on Wednesday. All right. So on your macromolecule chart, and I think AJ was in already. Okay, good afternoon. Okay. And that's the other thing, the internet and Zoom is just kicking people in and out. Cause like right now, AJ, I got you in here twice. I know it kicked you out, but you're kind of still in. So now I got you twice. All right, I have to look at stuff like that because I sometimes look at how many people are logged into class, and then it's more people than I'm supposed to have. All righty. So proteins. So as I was saying, the chart has 4 macromolecules and water. Water is not a macromolecule. It's not an organic molecule either. So the other term that we're using is organic because all of these substances contain carbon. So we look at the first column always tells you what elements it's made up of. So we have, for proteins, we have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And they are important as the building blocks of tissues. Most tissues are made of protein. Proteins are made up of little tiny units called amino acids. And an amino acid is made up of a chain of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but it also has a group that we call the variable group or the R group, and that's where you're going to find your nitrogen. Well, you got nitrogen over here. Excuse me. You're going to find the variation there. Okay, so most amino acids look like the piece at the top, but then that R group is going to make up, figure out how this group is different from another one. So there are 20 of them. I refer to this like we have 26 letters in the alphabet, and we make gazillions of words out of it. Same thing with amino acids. How you arrange the amino acid will determine the kind of protein that you make. So think of amino acids as a string of pearls, or a protein as a string of pearls. And that string of pearls is called a polypeptide. So peptide is anytime you see peptide, that's a protein. And then we just added, so you got monopeptides and polypeptides. And we mostly find proteins in meats, eggs, all of the tissues in your body. Enzymes, hormones, and steroids are all made of protein. Then we have our carbohydrates. Now, again, the main function of a protein is to make tissue. Okay, so that's it. When it comes into the play of a living thing, that's its job. All right. The main job of a carbohydrate is to provide energy, structure, and storage. Those are its main jobs. Carbohydrates only have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, we don't have nitrogen in a carbohydrate. One of the things that they do is they store starch. So as glycogen. Glycogen is the stored form of a carbohydrate. So think of that as the carbohydrate store. If you buy too much and you want to put it in the cupboard for a little while and get a source of energy later, you're going to break down your glycogen. Okay. And all sugars end in OSE. So again, if you like how this one was peptides, and you see a word over here, glucose, fructose, galactose, those are all sugars. Okay. Cellulose. Cellulose is the stringy stuff. If you like celery, uh, the stringy stuff in the celery, that's your cellulose. We don't digest that. Cows can digest it. Other plant eaters can digest it. We can't digest it, but it's good fiber for us. Okay. So the monomer word for a carbohydrate is saccharide. So if you have one, it's a monosaccharide. We have disaccharides, which are two carbohydrate structures put together. And if we have more than two, it's a polysaccharide. So saccharide is the base word for sugar. The other thing is you look at the shape, they form these little pentagons or hexagon shapes, and then they link with the elements that are hanging over. That's how they link together, whereas these are formed long chains, and the chains tend to just link somewhere along the chain. This one has a definite shape to it, and all these little shapes connect together. All right, so you're going to find carbohydrates and starch like bread and crackers and things like that. Table sugar is glucose and fructose joined together. So that's a disaccharide. Again, for starchy things. And anytime it's starch, you convert it to a sugar before you digest it. So I think in the video that he was watching, if you're chewing it in your mouth, cracker or bread or potato in your mouth, eventually it'll start to taste sweet because the enzymes in your mouth automatically convert that starch to a sugar. Okay. All right. So digestion starts in the mouth, but we'll cover that later. All right, lipids are our fats, and they are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphate. Okay, and they store their job is to store energy and to be a an essential component of the cell membrane, which again, we will look at the structure of cell membrane when we study cells. Um, Now, you see energy here? That's its main job is to provide energy. However, you can, because lipids are bigger molecules, when you break down the lipids, you get more energy. So, but that's not its first job, but um, it can provide you with a lot of energy, which is why when you go on a diet and you stop providing yourself carbohydrates, your body says, ah, I've got a fat reserve. I can pull out my energy from digesting that. All right. Thing that's unique about lipids is that they have a hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail. So they have one end that likes water and the other end that does not like it, repels the water, which means lipids are not soluble in water. Okay, because of that end that does not like water. It has a very strange structure. There's two pieces to you have this long fatty acid structure, but it is made up of three of these and a glycerol backbone. So you have this three carbon sugar that it makes up what we call the backbone, and then you have these three long chains of fatty acids connected to it. And this actually is a monomer. So one glycerol and three fatty acids makes up one fat unit. Okay. And you're going to find it in fats, waxes, oils, and steroids. All right, nucleic acids are not, all the other three are foods. Nucleic acids are not foods, but we can't function without them because they are DNA and RNA. So this one, we not only have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, we also have phosphorus. So this one has the two extra elements connected to them. The job of the DNA is to have the instructions for making proteins so that we can make more stuff inside the cell. All right. It has its nucleotide is a monomer, and a nucleotide is made up of a sugar. And actually, this picture is showing you a pentose sugar, which is RNA. Deoxyribose is not a pentose sugar, but it's a hexagon sugar. Okay, it's going to be connected to a nitrogen base and a phosphorus. Then there are four different kinds of nitrogen bases. Okay, so we can identify four different kinds of nucleotides because we identify it by the base that it's connected to. The bases are over here: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. So it could be any one of those. If it's an RNA, it can be adenine, uracil, cytosine, and guanine. So there's four different bases for an RNA molecule than there is for sugar. All right, the sugar and the phosphate are going to make up what we call the backbone of the ladder because we always refer to DNA as a twisted ladder or a spiral staircase. But the sides of the ladder are made up of the phosphate and the sugar, and then the base molecules connect to the base molecule of a matching complementary base molecule on the other strand, and so it is double stranded. They are hooked up in the middle. We call them the rungs of the ladder, or the steps of the ladder are the nitrogen bases, one hooked up to the one on the other side. So DNA is double stranded. RNA is single-stranded. And RNA is single-stranded because it needs room to copy the information from the DNA. We need to think of DNA as the big boss. He never leaves the office. The nucleus is the office, and he calls in his assistant or his chief manager, which is the RNA, gives him all the information of what needs to be built. The RNA leaves the nucleus and goes to the ribosome, which is the factory, and it then makes the proteins at the factory. All right. So there'll be a lot of replication going on from the point of the RNA. All right. So again, there's two types. It's not like it's in your food. You're not finding it in the food. It's found in the nucleus of the cell. And there are two types. All right, and then that brings us to water. In order to join all these molecules together or even break them apart, we either add water or we take water away, meaning that we're going to remove a hydrogen here and an OH molecule over here and join those together to create water. I always say water looks like a Mickey Mouse shape to me. The oxygen is the larger molecule, and you have two hydrogens attached to it. Um, Water is also called the universal solvent because almost everything except lipids will dissolve in water. Right? It is one of the most abundant things on the planet. It is the most abundant substance in your body because you are mostly water. Then you have the tissues that come after that. We talked about water having is less ice. All things can exist in three states of matter. So for water, it is ice as a solid, liquid water, and then water vapor as a gas. As a solid, instead of it, and when we talk about matter, we always talk about the molecules of the solid are hold tightly together. With water, the molecules spread out. So if you ever notice, you put a bottle of water in the freezer, and next thing the water bottle swells, or if it's a soda can, it's going to pop because the water in the container will swell. So it'll make the container that it's in extra big. Specific heat is the amount of heat, the measure of the amount of heat that a body can hold. And we talked about it has low density and it has high specific heat, which means it takes a long time for it to get hot. Okay, if we're looking at a thermometer, uh, and you're more familiar with Fahrenheit, so room temperature is about 65 degrees, and our body temperatures are 98 degrees. Water boils, and we can't go from being liquid water to water vapor until we get to 212 degrees. So that's a big gap. It's going to take a long time for it to change from a liquid to a gas. They asked you a question about the ocean. How come or even a swimming pool, when you go out to jump in the pool and it's blazing hot outside, you jump in the pool and the pool is still cold. That's because large bodies of water take a long time to heat up. It'll heat up a little bit, but it won't heat up that much that you won't be cold when you first jump in there. Okay? All right, so again, there's ice, there's liquid water, and water vapor. All right, so remember to have that available. You will be able to use that on the test. Not much else. It is going to be a lockdown test. Um, so have this one available, have Miss Cran available, and you can have, okay, that's not what I want. I want to go back. There's a lot more things in my module than in yours. Okay, that'll be available later on. So I'll have to change the dates on that and it'll be available. Also, there's a code. All right, so this is where we want to be here. I want you to, like, you should download yours as a Google Doc so that you can write on it. I'm going to go over this with you, but I'm going to stop here so that I can do attendance. So start looking this over, try to complete it. Definitely look at the vocabulary words, and I'll be right back. The worksheet, so please follow along. There is no this I don't give a grade because I'm going over it with you, but just the fact that you actually filled it in and submitted it gets you some bonus points in the grade book. So I'm going to do attendance. I think right now we're just missing somebody. That's my somebody. Hmm, okay. All righty. Thank you. A good friend of mine gave that to me. I am a Betty Boop collector. I have all things Betty Boop. My car has Betty Boop's car seats and mats and steering wheel and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so we got it, everybody. Um, I am going to. All right, so we're going to get through as much of this as possible uh, by the end of class. So again, you want to make sure that you know about Miss Gren. Miss Gren is not on this um, study sheet, but know that anyway. What is this assignment called? I'm going to pull it up in just a second. I'm trying to do the impossible here. Sometimes my printer will print. I like to have so that I'm not, oh, there we go. And sometimes it doesn't. I like paper copies of things. All right, so if you are in the grade, if you are in Canvas, and I'm going to share again. No, why are you doing that? All right, so it should be the last thing in the module for macromolecules. So that's where I am in Canvas. And you should be able to download. So you can, if you open this as a doc, it'll save. I'm not opening it there because it's going to just download and add something else to my computer. So I'm opening it as a PDF. But you should download yours as a doc, and you'll get the same thing. It's just it'll be something that you can write on. And that's the form you want it to be in. All right, so make sure all of your assignments are complete and grades are up to date. These are all of the vocabulary words that are going to be associated with this unit. I don't recall talking about ADP that much, but it is the energy carrying molecule. So these two are together. Um, and we need energy for everything. Denaturing is what we said what happens to the protein. When your protein gets too hot, everything functions at an optimal temperature. So, and I'm just looking at the vocabulary list, trying to find words that stick out that we didn't spend much time talking about. Um, so I'm looking at the word denaturization in that last column. That just means that the protein gets to a point where it's non-functional. We've cooked it and it's not able to do its job because it got too hot and and it's not able to function at that temperature. Enzymes are proteins, and they are very, very important as far as getting your chemical systems going. And if they get overheated and become denatured, then there's no chemical reactions going on because they cannot do their job. All right, so we don't want it's that word right there. I think everything else we've talked about, so we'll stick them where they need to go as we go along. All right, the four most common elements in an organism are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Those are the most common. We do have some that have phosphorus in them, but that's extra. Most of them have all of them have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Some have nitrogen, like proteins and nucleic acids have nitrogen, and nucleic acids have phosphorus. Okay, and lipids have phosphorus but not nitrogen. Okay, all righty. List four macromolecules, and then um, you so you can list proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and um, nucleic acids. On this side, again, use your chart so that you are listing the monomer, the single unit that is identified with each of those. Explain how the structure of water is polar. All right, so we said we had our little Mickey Mouse molecule. The oxygen has a negative side to it, and the hydrogens have the positive side. So when we say it's a polar, again, think of the north and south poles, that there's a top and bottom to a water molecule. So where the little Mickey Mouse ears are your two hydrogens, and they are positive. So that's the positive pole, and the bottom side of the oxygen is negative. That's the North Pole, so to speak. All right, so kind of to answer this question, you kind of have to draw it or imagine the picture being there so that you can identify its north and south poles. All right, describe how polarity contributes to the following properties. All right, and then this one you can, so we were talking about the surface tension. So water can bead up on, it kind of helps with the waterproofing. So water can just bead up on the surface of things like your skin or the top of a plant and not sink through. The capillary action is where the water has to get up the from the roots up to the leaves, so it goes through the it's kind of like a straw, a vascular system inside the plant. And you too, you have veins and arteries and things that have to carry water and liquid through the body, so it's able to flow, the capillary action, because they can follow one molecule behind the other. All right. The question number 6, I'm not going to worry about that so much. Um, you simply need to know that water is neutral. That's all I need you to know about that. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with you learning or drawing the pH scale. I'll go back for just a second here and show you what the pH scale looked like. But we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. Alrighty. So this is a pH scale, and it goes, and pH is the amount of hydrogen atoms or hydrogen ions, the little charge that the hydrogen has, the plus charge. How many hydrogen ions are there in solution? Now, we also talked about the OH. The water is H and it's OH, and you put them together, then that's how we get the H2O. So at the top part, we're measuring how many hydrogen ions are floating in solution. The bottom part, we're looking at how many OH molecules are in solution. The more OH molecules we have, the more, I'm sorry, I'm looking at, so at the top, the orange, the purple part is OH, and um, the bottom part is hydrogen. So if you have a whole lot of hydrogens in solution, you're going to be an acid. If you have a lot of oxide, hydroxide molecules, which is the OH, you're going to have a base. And if you mix OH with H, you're going to get water, and which will put you neutral. So how do you neutralize an acid or a base? You add it until you have an equal number of hydrogen ions with your OH ions, and then you get water. Okay, so water is going to be in the middle. Okay, we want blood to be neutral. We want water to be neutral. Salt water is slightly acidic. Sorry, slightly basic because of the salt. Your soda that you drink is very acidic. Coffee that you drink in the morning is very acidic. So that just gives you an idea. But like I said, that gives you an idea. The thing that I need you to know is that water is neutral. On the pH scale, water is neutral. Everything that has more hydrogen ions than water is acid. Anything that has more hydroxide ions than water is a base. That's all you need to know for that. All right, back to our little question. So don't draw it, just know that part. All right, number 7. Carbohydrates are made up of 3 different elements in a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. Okay? It is one hydrogen, 2 carbons, 1 hydrogen. Okay? Carbohydrates are one oxygen, 1 carbon, 1 hydrogen, sorry, 2, okay. In the ratio, 1 hydrogen, and I've gotten this backwards again. 1 carbon, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. Scratch that. Okay. 1 carbon, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. That's how we can get H2O, because we can get two H's and 1 O. Carbon, 1. So the ratio is 1 carbon, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. So that's what you have on number 7. A simple sugar called glucose. Glucose is what the plants make during photosynthesis. It has a formula of C6H12O6, and that gives you an example of our a 1 to 2 to 1. For every 1 carbon, there are 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, okay? So this if you brought this broke this down to a ratio, this would still come down to our 1 to 2 to 1, alright? And slow me down if I'm going too fast for you. I'm trying to get as much of it done before because this is a long worksheet, so we're not gonna get it all done. We'll probably get to 19 or 20, and then you're gonna be on your own for the rest of the worksheet. Alrighty, here we go. Alright, da, 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 da. So we did 8, 9. So that takes care of carbohydrates. Number 9, what are the 4 major polysaccharides that we see in nature? So polysaccharides are the sugars. So you want to go to your little chart and look up a list of. So sucrose is the most popular one. That's the table sugar. That's the sugar that you use every day on your food. You want to look at your chart for some of the others that are most popular. And by polysaccharide, that means it's a sugar that's made up of more than one base sugar. Okay. For the most part, you just need to know that um, sucrose is glucose and fructose. That makes the table sugar. That's a disaccharide. All right, polysaccharides are present in both fungi and crustacean. Um, cellulose. Monomers are bound together to make polymers. That's number 11. What 3 elements make up lipids? Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. They are long chains of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Their function of lipids is to, actually, we didn't talk about that much, the fact that insulation. They provide energy, they provide storage for energy, and insulation. The fat keeps you warm. All right, the characteristics of an enzyme is they are proteins. They are unique to the substance that they work on. They are biological catalysts. But an enzyme that works on starch doesn't work on protein. An enzyme that works on proteins doesn't work on fat. So they are very specific. So later on, when we talk about proteins, we're going to talk about the lock and key theory, where they the enzyme fits the substance it's trying to digest. So if it doesn't fit, it's not going to break it down. All right. Which gave me this the job of an enzyme is to help in metabolic processes. So it either speeds up a reaction or slows it down. Either makes the reaction happen or it slows it down. In and an enzyme is biological. So this happens in living things. You only find enzymes in living things. They are made of proteins. All right, an enzyme in your digestive system works on a saccharide, a disaccharide called maltose. Maltose breaks into two. What is it likely name of the enzyme? Um, and I think I don't know if we had that on it, but enzymes, like I said, are very specific to what they work on. So it's going to be named for the substance that it works on. So if we're working on maltose, we change the ending to ase, and it'll be maltase. So all enzymes end in ase, and the front part will be whatever it is they're working on. So If they're working on galactose, it's galactase. If they're working on lactose, it's lactase, that sort of thing. Maltose, maltase, fructose, fructase, that sort of thing. Okay. Enzymes are named for the substance that they work on because they are very specific to that substance. All right. Factors that limit enzyme activity, temperature, nah, denaturization. There we go. Couldn't get that out. And I told you about that. It is when they change the structure of the or shape or structure of a protein. It happens because it gets heated, gets exposed to heat. Everything functions at an optimal temperature, especially proteins. It's like eggs are protein. So think about when you cook an egg, it changes its shape and you can't get that jelly-like substance back at all. That's what happens to that is denaturing. And that's what happens to an enzyme. Uh, an ATP is an energy carrying molecule, and sugar is an energy carrying molecule. And there again, 20 is not a question I would put on the test, but we'll talk about ATP later on. But just know that there are substances that go around carrying energy in the body. All righty. I'm going to stop there and let you work on this, the true false part of it. And again, I will give extra credit if you're so I'm going to right now open up a folder that it's worth 2 points if you complete this worksheet. Actually, uh, it'll say 0 points because you get no points if you don't submit it, but you get, I will give you 2 extra points if you do. So it will actually say 0 points when I open it. And that way, people who don't submit it don't get penalized for not submitting it. But those of you who do will get extra points. Any of the ones that I've already given you the answers to. Yes, drink some water. Please stay hydrated. Your cells need water. Your body slows down when you get dehydrated because the chemical processes cannot function. All right, grade book. All right, open house is tomorrow. Um, Make sure you tell your parents so that they can. Oh, I see what I have to do. I have to get those grades from the Nearpod. Okay, that's what I need to do. So I got a lot of catching up. All right, any questions? Any questions? And always remember a late assignment is better than a zero. So if you're missing something, please make sure that you get that caught up. All right, Zanaya, I got you. Not to worry. Also, I'm aware of that protein. Um, is the macromolecule is due to test is Wednesday, so it's due by Wednesday. I haven't opened it yet. I see the might not see the folder for it until Wednesday. Okay, I'm trying to catch these other assignments up yet. But again, with the protein one, we remember we got stuck on that because um, the videos didn't work. So I'm only taking a participation grade on that. So make sure you got at least as far as I think it was slide 25 before you got held up. And don't worry about anything after that because it won't let you go past that. But make sure you get your participation grade for the first part of it. So right now, if you have not completed the Nearpods, I'm going in the Nearpods and pulling those scores out now and putting them in the grade book. So please check on those two. Okay. Again, please use this time to also turn in any work that is missing. Justin, I got you. I'm not sure. uh, Yeah, I didn't respond to your email, but that's what I was just talking about earlier in class. I was responding to you in class just now. That yes, do the protein Nearpod as far as you can go, but you're going to get stuck, and I'm just going to do the participation part of it, and we did the rest of it in class, so not to worry about that. But do make sure that you have done at least the first part because there will be a participation grade for the protein Nearpod. The carbohydrate Nearpod, everybody should have been able to finish that. Okay.